And new fears this morning that the lead executioner may be an American. As NBC's Richard Engel reports, the Italian government is now boosting security amid threats that Italy could be the terror group's next target.
ISIS is spreading like a virus, and months of U.S.-led airstrikes don't seem to be containing it. In Libya, ISIS has been showing its strength. The group beheaded 21 Egyptian Christians. One of the executioners speaking in English with an American accent.
Recently, you've seen us on the hills of Asham.
Egypt hit back with its own airstrikes. ISIS says Italy will be next. Security has already been beefed up at St. Peter's. But the biggest advances, and reportedly the worst atrocities, have come where Washington claims to be making the most progress in Iraq, which is starting to look like a failed state. In the north, we saw firsthand last week how Kurdish forces have been under attack near the city of Erbil. They turned back a major ISIS assault.
Yeah. It's Richard Engel reporting.
Yeah, Richard Engel reporting. Let's talk about strategy for a second, then let's go to the White House summit. A battle over words there. Let's talk about battle over tactics. I saw something from, I think it was IJ Review yesterday. The Lone Survivor, the book Lone Survivor, talked about how he really believed that it would take a limited number of Marines to go in there and clear ISIS out. And he said right now it's their playground. It's their terror playground, and it wouldn't take that much to go in and make a big difference. I don't think that's the case.
I don't either.
But I haven't been over in Iraq, so I haven't fought in Iraq. But I find it hard to believe that these guys in Datsun trucks could control much territory if we decided to go in. And we're talking to John McCain later on this morning, who is talking about sending in troops and putting boots on the ground. I think the more Americans see of this, the more Americans are going to say, all right, let's do what Colin Powell says, throw everything we have at them, kill them, and come home in a couple of months. Mike?
Well, again, it's the cockroach theory. I mean, you stamp them out in Aleppo, and they're going to recreate and reappear somewhere else.
Right.
Minute by minute, hour by hour. The problem now, look at ISIS is a group, I'm told, and from everything we've read, is a group that depends solely on territory for its strength, and they gobble up territory throughout the Middle East. They are unlike Al-Qaeda. So where they are now is within urban populations, largely in Syria.
Right.
House-to-house urban fighting in Syria is not something that any American ought to be in favor of.
Right.
If you look at what happened in Kobani, the town that the Kurds tried to take back, that town's been almost decimated in the center of it. That was street-to-street, house-to-house fighting, where the Kurds lost a lot of people in the process. And I think if we think that just because we send in big numbers of Americans that people are not going to die in the course of those street-to-street battles, we're kidding ourselves. John Kerry has a very interesting op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today where he says that eliminating the terrorists by force today will not protect us from the terrorists of tomorrow. And that's very worth bearing in mind. We can wipe them out today in Iraq, possibly even in Syria. It doesn't guarantee that in 2 or 3 years they don't come up again.
But listen to what Mike just said, though, and what the Atlantic Monthly writes about. Unlike other terror groups, they depend on territory.
Yeah.
You can take large swaths of territory, I would guess, away from them very quickly. Urban centers, no. But can you control pipelines that fund their terror outfit? Can you cut off access down the highways? Can you encircle some of these towns where they are? Yes, you can. I don't know.
Sure, Joe, but what happens a year from now? Are you still protecting that pipeline? Are you still controlling that territory? Are we still putting in position the operations that will make sure that Syria is not a failed state and that has a government that protects those areas
Isn't
away
that
from
why
Islamic State?
we set the United Nations up in 1945? Why, I mean, when the hell is the United Nations going to step forward and do something of note other than hold meetings?
Good luck.
In New York City. I mean, but again, this is the same argument that we made about Iraq. How long do we stay in Iraq? Right. We left Iraq precipitously, and we have ISIS because of it. So the question is, will other Arab countries, and I think the answer now is yes, Will Jordan, will the UAE, will Egypt, will Saudi Arabia provide other peacekeepers to look at those areas, to help the Kurds? I think we have a much better chance now than we did 3 years ago.